welcome folks to this Filmmaker event here.
Roll sound. Cameras rolling.
Hi, I'm Dan Orozco, and welcome to Butter City. My guest today is Joanna Kohler. She is the producer and director of the film Boxers, a documentary feature chronicling the journey of an all-female boxing team. Joanna, welcome to Butter City.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk real quick about kind of where this film is right now. You just had a premiere at the Walker, or through the Walker.
Yes.
Talk about that event and kind of how that all went.
Well, it just premiered on March 10th with the Walker's Film Festival, Women with Vision. And it premiered off-site at Uppercut Boxing Gym, which is where a lot of the shooting took place and where the team comes from. And so it's actually the first time that the Walker took a film off-site for any of the films within the film festival. So it was a huge honor and a great opportunity, and it was a huge, gorgeous warehouse space, and filled it up, sold it out, and showed the film inside a boxing ring on a 14-foot screen.
So talk about that. I mean, you've taken this thing through a number of cuts, and you premiered it there. Sometimes films are never really finished; they're just abandoned. You know, you kind of have to know when to stop. Where are you with this film? Once you showed it at the premiere, was that going to be it for you?
As far as editing, or where?
Yeah.
As far as editing, I mean, there's still some. You know, I'm trying to do some fundraising around the film to get some like sound, mixing done, and some of the stuff that really needs to be able to make it to a broadcast quality. But as far as the edit part of it, the storyline, it's done.
And the picture is locked right where you want it.
Yes.
That's very cool.
Yes.
I know that you just recently got back from Detroit, was it?
It is Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Yes.
It's like Detroit with a C. So talk about that experience, what it was like going out there. Did you apply to a festival, or did you get invited, or?
I had run into somebody who was working with a women's Title IX conference that's happening out there. It's the 35th anniversary for Title IX, which
Title IX is?
It's an amendment that provides equal access for women in educational institutions, which includes sports. So school sports then had to be created equal for women, and that's what Title IX did. And with the NCAA Women's Final Four basketball tournament happening out in Cleveland, the 35th anniversary conference collaborated with that, and with that collaborated with the Cleveland International Film Festival. And so some of the women that were running that film festival found out about Boxers and invited the film to come out there to screen there for their audience.
Oh, very cool. So what was that like, going out there?
It was great. I mean, that film festival, the crowds were amazing. They turned out like thousands of people every day on the weekend, filled 8 theaters simultaneously. And so it was a great experience. We then had a panel discussion afterwards where we had Vonda Ward, who's the heavyweight women's champion in boxing. And we had a woman who's a Title IX expert from Ithaca College who drove down to be on the panel. And so after seeing Boxers, we were able to open up for a conversation with the audience. And for me, it was a phenomenal experience to see women at a film festival like that stand up and engage in a conversation about our stories, about kind of what does it mean for women to carry forward a different story, and to be conscious of that, and to create dialogue around that. And that was powerful. That was really powerful.
Well, it's a powerful story, and it's just got a great storyline to it. These characters are really interesting, and you totally get involved with them. And it seems almost like I'm sure you get a very good positive reaction from the women who see it. What kind of reaction do you get from men who watch it? What do they think of it?
It's actually been really surprising. I've seen a couple like older men that are pretty athletic cry.
Really?
Yeah, and it's amazed me, and it makes me feel really good. Not because I can make them cry, but that there's some kind of like universal truth about risk-taking and confronting fear that my impression is that that's what they're identifying with, and that's the point at which they've actually cried. I did a rough screening in Chicago, and there was an old Golden Gloves champion who came out there, and he saw the film because he knew one of the women that was in the film, and at the end he was like, "That's my story." And to think that a team of 7 women going to their first international tournament as boxers and navigating that sport with a very different background than he would have. To think that he saw his story as a boxer in that film meant a lot to me to hear.
Yeah, there is some universality to it, kind of the heartbreak, and it is a journey. I mean, you really locked into a unique time for this team.
Mm-hmm.
Was that, when you started it, was that the idea? Was it's like, oh, they're gonna go to this tournament and we're gonna get it right now from training, or did you just kind of start and then this kind of came up and so you just grabbed onto that story and away you went?
I had started filming a little bit and then found out that they were going to go to the tournament. And so the tournament, this team hadn't really come together as a team before. They had worked out together in the same gym, but they really hadn't identified themselves as a team. And then one of them suggested going to the ringside tournament. And so they were all pretty nervous about it, but excited at the same time. And since none of them had gone before, they decided that the way to train would be to kind of come together and support each other and do that. So then they formed the team. So it was that was the catalyst for the timeline for the film. But that wasn't why I came to sort of film these women in the first place. I came to film these women because I saw a group of women exploring power.
Cool.
And it happened to be in boxing.
Let's take a look at a clip
Okay.
from Butter City, and we'll talk more about the theme of power in all your films.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
The first time I sparred, and Lisa was hitting me over and over and over, and I would not hit her back. Just couldn't do it. She kept saying, hit me, hit me. And I'm like, no, I can't. And then something triggered in me when she hit me. Finally, it was like I couldn't take it anymore, and I just unloaded on her. And she was like, yes.
To fight anything means, what I've learned is it takes sustained effort, and it takes strategy, and it takes skill. Otherwise, you're pounding your head against a wall.
The thing about the ring isn't about what you take from it, but about what you come into the ring with. That determines everything. To say my fear isn't there and to ignore it would be insane. To train so that that fear is negotiated and a part of what goes into the ring with me, it has to be, because it's going to be there whether I want it to be or not.
But a chance in a lifetime, I think. I mean, when did they ever think that they could go to an international boxing tournament and compete? It's like somebody telling me I'd own a boxing gym. I think they can train well together. I think there's a little bit of animosity with a couple of the girls, and a lot of that has to do with, I lost the word, not power, but competition-wise, you know, between Becca and Amy. She's a little bit all over right now, trying to figure out what's going on. You know, when you're 22 compared to the girls, they're 28, Sarah's going to be 35, and you forget that age range.
Because I'm 34, next year I won't be able to compete with the same bracket of females.
This is a woman that, at 27, found her birth mother in Korea and went to meet her by herself. That's intense. And she has always taken those challenges and moved head-on towards them.
Anytime women get together and go against the mainstream, there's always people that have a problem with it. I mean, that's just the way it is. Other women have a problem with it. Some men have a problem with it.
Excellent. So cool. So Boxers is where you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we can come back to kind of what's happening with it and what your plans are. But I'd like to kind of start back from the beginning. Talk about, I mean, you always wanted to go into film, and maybe your first couple projects. How did you get started in this?
I actually thought when I was in high school I was going to be a social worker. And I was involved in some social service agencies as a young person. And one of the youth centers I was involved with I felt like wasn't following their mission statement or their bylaws. And a group of us sort of were calling out the adults on how are you going to be accountable to us when you go off and represent us, but not following necessarily what you say you are. And a woman had come in from, actually Chris Sorensen, who works out of St. Paul, had come in to teach us how to use a video camera. So I picked up one of her video cameras and started to film these young people, interview them about ageism and about what that's like to have an adult come in and say they're going to support you and not fulfill necessarily what they're saying they're doing. And I finished that film, and that the power of communicating within a community, a story, and a story that's traditionally unheard because the other channels that are available to you aren't necessarily there, was powerful, and that's really what attracted me to becoming a filmmaker.
And what was that film?
Witness.
That was Witness. Mm-hmm. And beyond showing it kind of within that community, did you take it out anywhere else, or?
Yeah, I actually ended up doing a self-distribution when I was 19 and sold it to a lot of different universities that picked it up, and I sold it to some youth work conferences and symposiums. And I screened it here actually with the Walker's Girls in the director's chair, and then also at Intermedia Arts.
When you were 19, that was your?
Yeah.
Okay, wow. Yeah. So then your next film was kind of based on kind of dealing with the Middle East and kind of what's going on over there. Talk a little bit about that.
Moving in a Mirror is the name of the second documentary I made, and that was about a woman whose name is Ronnie Shindar, and she is a Israeli Jew who was a peace activist in West Jerusalem during the Second Intifada, which is the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And it took a look at her activism since she came out of the military in 2000, and the Second Intifada broke out.
So the U.S. military or the Israeli?
The Israeli military. Okay. And then over the 4 years, she goes from being a very militant activist to spray painting army tanks and stuff like that to opening an art center. And the evolution of how to sustain her activism in the context of privilege and confront that and accountability. And that's what Moving in a Mirror ended up being a film about.
And what'd you do with that one?
That one I am getting ready to do distribution with, and I'm looking to try to hook in with the networks that are over there that are interested in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But also I've been taking that on what I call a guerrilla tour, where I've been screening it in different communities here in Minnesota and documenting conversations afterwards around activism. Because it's a short 30-minute film, and then I facilitate a conversation with communities around what is activism to you, and then document it and hopefully get that up on a website to get conversations going.
So those two films,
mm-hmm.
and then you go into a boxing movie.
Mm-hmm.
What led you into that? I mean, is there a common thread through all of this?
Yeah, I thought that I was not going to make the boxing film because I thought I made political activist films. And what I actually saw was this was a story that is an activist film. It just has, the storyline is immersed in the sport of boxing. But the common thread that I have seen throughout all three films I've made is women individually exploring power and what that looks like, and sort of confronting that and trying to negotiate their way in the world in the context of power.
Interesting. So, and talk about how did you ended up winning the Jerome Grant?
Yes.
And that was based on the work of your first two films? I mean, talk about kind of getting through that process, managing it.
Well, it was definitely, I think it was like the fourth time I had applied for the Jerome Grant, and I believe it had to have been based on some of my previous work, but I showed them some of the footage I was already capturing for boxers and the storyline that I wanted to go with, and I think that's really where it came from.
That must have been very helpful to have something in the can.
Well, yeah.
To show them.
So they could meet the characters and actually see what they look like when you interview them and the story. I mean, those characters just ooze with a story as soon as you shoot them.
Yeah, totally. So then you have all this money. What is it? Then you just go to Amsterdam for a while and chill out, or what?
Well, it definitely wasn't all this money, but in the big picture of what it costs to make a film, but it was a significant amount of money, especially for me as an emerging filmmaker, to be able to receive that. And it was, I mean, that combined with money that I had saved up really provided the opportunity for me to take the time and focus on making this film, and focus on developing as a filmmaker at the same time. So that money went towards being able to edit this. I mean, it's the first feature I really edited. So doing that, working with Jamie Lee, who's an editor with Visionary Filmworks, and that's really the money went to those types of things, and working with, you know, a musician and just trying to get the things to the standard that needed to happen for the level of this story.
To make it go.
Yeah.
Great. Let's take a look at another clip.
Okay.
From Boxers.
Then you always get the people that are like, oh, show me what you can do.
At least my male friends, at the beginning, it was kind of a surprise. They couldn't believe it. Every time we talk, they make fun of me, you know, because Amy is a boxer. You know, if I don't go out, for example, they say, oh, yeah, she's going to beat you up if you go out, right?
But I definitely make a shift into another aspect or part of myself that I use to compete.
A necessary release of energy that builds up inside of me that if I don't do it in boxing, I've got to do it somehow. And for me, it's healthy to do it in a physical way, whether it's running around the lakes or it's in the gym boxing or dancing or something. I need to.
Try not to leave with the hook. Okay, you look good, Dad. You got one more. Just stay busy.
It's gonna hurt for a long, long time.
So we're not in there to hurt each other, but we're in there to learn. But at some point, you do kind of let loose a little bit. And you have to know what that feels like before you get in the ring, because otherwise, if you just go into a fight without having experienced that yet, then you're gonna lose control. You'll lose control.
Yeah, nice. That's sweet ass rotation. Pop, 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 pop.
That is such a great shot coming out of that. I love that. And she has a great story to follow, too. There's a lot of triumph, but also a lot of heartbreak in this story, in this movie. So you've got the Jerome grant. You've already started shooting by the time you had the grant. And it sounds like you really use a lot of it to, the kind of time became more of your friend then. You could give yourself a little more breathing room as far as the creation of the project. So when you're doing these shoots and these interviews and stuff, what kind of crew did you have with you? How did you?
What kind of what?
Crew. What kind of crew did you bring along?
I didn't have one.
Oh, it was you.
It was me. There were a couple of times, like there's a tournament that a card, which is a series of boxing matches that they hold at the gym, that I had somebody else, Collier White, who came and was a second camera person. And then at the tournament, Mike Hoyt, who's actually Sarah's partner, picked up the camera and shot a little bit of footage there as well. So I had some help, but as far as the shooting goes, it was me.
And then, you know, when you take on that much of a production, when you're that involved with it, you always learn things that you didn't mean to learn, or maybe you don't want to learn. So, I mean, what aspects of filmmaking were you kind of dunked into on this production?
Well, one of the things I loved about being the only person there with the camera and my familiarity, I mean, I have friendships with all the women in the film, that the level of closeness or intimacy I could get with the camera was amazing, and that's a huge benefit. I think also, though, that it left me having to really figure out some boundaries along the way, that if I had had more people working with me, I think it would have been easier for me to be able to identify those things, but also the intimacy.
Like edit along the way, you mean, kind of thing, or what?
Well, just in the shooting of it, because afterwards, I mean, I did work with an editor afterwards, and so you know that part was happening. But I think that level of if you're working with a team of people, there's a shared experience that then I can go back and they know because they were there when I was shooting, you know, or they were helping me shoot, so we could have that kind of back and forth conversation to a different degree than I was able to. I mean, I was having those conversations, but not with people who are necessarily right there shooting with me. And then people bring a level of expertise. I think collaboration is essential if you want to have the best possible production. And people have unique skill sets that I think that like in the future I'd want some specific people there with me.
People who do like just sound or
just sound,
just the DP,
or just the DP, or like just different pieces that
dedicated. And you said you have friendships with some of the fighters. Was it hard? I mean, I haven't worked on many documentaries, but I know that there needs to be some separation between the subject and the person capturing the subject, because you care about these people and how their outcome is. That must have put some kind of, to use a bad term, to put some kind of lens on the way you're capturing it, even in a way you're not aware of. Is there anything that, I mean, what did you learn about that relationship? Would you do that again? Would you be that close to a subject again?
I would do it again.
You totally would?
I would do it again, and only because every film I've made, I've been deeply connected to the people that are in the film. So I would definitely do it again. I think there's a lens on no matter what you shoot. There's always going to be a lens. And if I fault on the lens being too close to the people that are in the film, I would prefer to fault on that line. However, I do think that, you know, that I'm growing and developing and learning more how to figure out what those lines are. But I do a lot of work with the people that are in the film. I do a lot of work. I sit down with them, and because I'm a facilitator, I'll facilitate conversations about being prepared for what it means to have your image captured. And be prepared that when I show this to the public, that this is a time in your life, and it's a frame. It's not going to fully, there's no way a film can fully 100% tell the story of what your experience was.
It's not going to define you.
No, and it's my lens. And to kind of work with them around that process. And I think that that's a great opportunity that I would give up if I wasn't that close to the people that I was working with. So then they leave. I mean, they're part of a film. They're probably never going to be in another film again in their life. But they leave with this level of awareness about what documentary filmmaking is, and a level of awareness about media literacy that they can then share. And when we go out in the community, if they show up and they're doing a conversation with the community, they're able to also articulate this difference between what is media and what is life. And I think that that's important.
It is. Cool. Let's take a look at our third and final clip from Boxers.
I was stoked for her. It's like she gets another fight.
You did a great job, Rachel. Come on.
So when they raised her hand, it wasn't like I didn't know or anything. It was just like, you know, I wanted to win. Like the whole thing. I just figured if you work hard enough, even if you don't have the physical ability, mentally, if you can pull through and just keep going, you're gonna win, you know? But then when your brain is different from your body and you realize that, and you can't get it back together fast enough, then you're like, oh, yeah, okay, well, you know, you can't put it back together fast enough, and that was my problem.
And then when we started, her jab was hard, and I was like, okay, I gotta respect the jab, like, because behind a hard jab is an even harder cross.
Hook, cross, perfect combination, scored in all three. Work that body a little bit, double up that jab. You're dropping your right hand just enough, and your face is right there. That's why she's scoring.
You win it. You win it now.
Stay busy.
In order for me to have the confidence that I really need to win the tournament, to win my first fight, is to know that all the training that I've done in the last 4 years amounts to the kind of confidence that I need.
Come together from very different places and very different walks of life and experiences, with whatever baggage they carry and bring to the gym or to the ring, and they've become this incredible team of women that support each other, probably beyond any layer of support that I've ever seen.
Yeah, that is who we are. We are women who fight for those things, and what's wrong with having that kind of power?
The people on my team I see are in a ring, they're not women. And they're not men, they're boxers.
That's great. And I think that's really true about the film. It's funny that you were talking about kind of some of the social aspects of it and women in sports and that kind of thing. But it really, it's great that it's just kind of woven into the story. It really is a story about people going through a very character building experience. I mean, you really capture that element of it. Talk about, you know, right now the movie is picture lock. You're going to do some final tweaking on sound and stuff. But Joanna Kohler today gets to talk to Joanna Kohler from day one, picking up the camera for the first time going into the gym. What would you bring to that experience? What would you tell her?
Hang on. I would say hang on.
It's probably been as much a character building experience for you as...
You know, it's been interesting, and I think I said this once before in another setting, but it's been interesting to work on this film and be following these women as they are, like, they go to their first tournament. You know, they go and they do these first things. I mean, they've been training for, you know, some of them 4, some of them 8 years, but to really push themselves to that next level, and the experiences and what they confront in themselves and in the communities around them and all this different stuff, and it's been a privilege and an amazing, like, the universe saying, here's your opportunity to study something right before you do it yourself. Right. And so, you know, their experiences in a lot of ways have helped me to prepare for kind of what I'm doing as I'm emerging as a filmmaker.
And I just want to be sure that people know where to catch up with you. You have a website for the film?
For the film is www.boxersdocumentary.com.
Any direct plans right now? Are you in any festivals right now, or what's the next screening for this, or is it kind of just check on the website?
It's check on the website. I'm constantly updating the website with the different screenings that are coming up.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks for coming by, Joanna.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks for watching Butter City. You can check us out on the web at www.buttercity.com. Thanks.
Support for Butter City is provided by